Today, I have the absolute honor of welcoming back someone who is shaping the future of women's health in a way few people on the planet are doing, Dr. Stacy Sims. Dr. Sims is an internationally recognized exercise physiologist, nutrition scientist, and world-leading voice behind the movement, Women Are Not Small Men. Her mission? To help active girls and women, and those who support them, understand the nuances of the female body so we can train, fuel, recover, and live in ways that align with our physiology instead of fighting against it. Her groundbreaking research has challenged long-standing sports science dogma and created a global shift in how we talk about hormones, puberty, performance, perimenopause, and female-specific health. Today, she's known worldwide for her viral conversations around perimenopause and menopause, her books, her evidence-based approach to female performance, and her newest work, Next Gen, training active girls for health and performance. A powerful education platform for parents, coaches, and teens navigating puberty and athletic development. Stacy currently lives in New Zealand with her husband and her 13-year-old daughter, and she's here today to pour into us again. This time with a deep dive into next gen conversation, how we can better support our teenage girls as they grow, change, train, and develop confidence for life. Stacy, thank you for coming back and sharing your brilliance with us and with this community of women who adore your work. Hey friends, and welcome to the Mom's Fat Sanity podcast. I'm Brittany, accountability coach for women who know they're made for more. This is a space where ambition meets real life, where we talk fitness, family, personal growth, leadership, and all the what the hell is happening right now moments in between. Around here, we don't chase perfection. We build momentum. We push comfort zones, ask better questions, and take real action on the goals that matter most. Each week, you'll hear honest conversations, powerful guests, and grounded reminders that you don't have to choose between showing up for your life and going after your potential. So whether you're walking, sweating, driving, or hiding in your car for 5 quiet minutes, you're in the right place. This is your permission to stop playing small in your own life. Let's get into it.
Hello.
Thank you so much for meeting me again. It's been a few years.
It has been.
Yeah.
My puffy goggle eyes. I'm like, oh.
Oh my gosh. Were you just in the pool this morning?
Yeah. And it takes forever for goggle marks to go away.
Me too. Some people have like goggles they swear by. I feel like I've tried every pair and it just doesn't work. Well, I so appreciate you being back. So welcome back and thank you for being here. I'm really excited to kind of get to hear all that you are about these days. I literally see you everywhere, as do all of us in the podcast world and the circuits and everything. But the new conversation I haven't heard a lot about yet is the next gen. Really excited for this one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think I got pigeonholed quite a bit into like the menopause space, but it's like my mission's bigger than that. So let's talk about the other side of menopause. Let's get into puberty.
Like where it all starts.
Exactly. Yeah.
Totally. I think throwing it back to women aren't small men, we're not. But at the same time, it starts well before we are even the adult. And so I love this side of the conversation. And you have is she 13 or 14?
Just turned 13.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Right. And I feel like, so my daughters are 14 and 16. And so now when I'm walking through this with them, it's just such an eye-opener. And how can we lead better as parents? And with the knowledge that you have from everything that you do, I'm really excited for you bringing this into the world.
Thanks. Yeah, I don't know how my daughter feels about it. She's like,
fair.
Oh, yeah, okay. But you don't really know, Mom. I'm like, yeah, I do. Been there and researched it. So yeah, I know.
I mean, we can go there first because I'm fascinated by that. I don't know how you feel about this, but with our kids especially, it's lead by example. They're never going to listen to what we have to say. But how do you actually bridge that gap?
I started when I was when Jara was really young. I started with bedtime stories, but conversation and saying, I don't want to fix anything. I just want you to vent. So, we still do that. And it gets to a point where she's venting and I was like, wait, I've been through this. And then you don't understand. It's like, yes, I do understand. And this is I don't know your lived experience, but this is my lived experience. These are my situations that are very similar to yours. So I approach it that way. And
Yeah.
then when it comes to like the Fitspo and all the social media stuff, like she's not on social media. She says she doesn't want to be, but she feels some of the pressures from her friends who are. And we've changed the conversation in this household from the whole like how you look and skinny and all that kind of stuff to how strong you are. How much can you deadlift? Because she's doing some strength training with the youth academy. And it's all about how powerful you are. And you have to fuel for what you're doing. So the whole diet culture that we grew up with, I've put an X on it in this
Yeah.
house. And for the most part, if something sneaks in, then we have a conversation about it instead of like trying to hide it or push it in a direction that isn't necessarily healthy. Yeah, so she's going around telling all of her friends they need to eat. I was like, this is great. I love this.
I absolutely love this too. Yes, there's so many ways that we can go with this, but I'd like to start at the beginning of this. What inspired you to create Next Gen, the program, and why now?
It's kind of been in the back of my head, like, when we start looking at my life evolution, you can kind of follow it through my books and programs. Living across the street from an elementary school, which is where my daughter went, and just watching this social interactions change from year to year, it's like, well, why are we like categorizing the boys and the girls in the same capacity? Because we see that the older girls now they're not playing on the monkey bars. They don't have a field to play soccer. They're walking around, they're not being physically active, and it's all because of the way it's been constructed on the playground. So going and having a conversation with the head teacher, who's the phys ed teacher, he's like, I see this happening, but I didn't really realize what was happening until you said something. So we were able to commandeer a field for the girls to play. So the older girls were now playing rugby or soccer instead of just walking around or sitting around and like making fun of each other and the stuff that happens when you don't have something to do. And then it was about the monkey bars, and I can no longer get up on the monkey bars and explaining, well, it's because your body comp is changing, your limbs are getting longer, so it's harder. And when they have the education, they understand it. And I was like, well, every girl should have this education. And then because my daughter plays soccer and watching the evolution from when she was 5 to now when she's 13 and the interaction with the coaches and knowing that a girl's interaction with her environment is different than a boy's, the coaching that's generally there isn't going to instigate a competitive or confident female player. So one of the examples I really like to use is when we're talking about corner kicks, right? And you'll have the boys team who's the under 13s and they're going one for one, corner kick, corner kick, corner kick. Try to get the girls to do that and they're like, yeah, no. It's like, well, okay, well, let's have 3 of you go. You're going to pass, 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 corner kick, pass, pass, pass. And they'll do it because then they don't feel like everyone is watching them. So it's all of these things that have come up. I'm like, all this needs to be in one area where someone can go as a parent, as a coach, or as a teenage girl and understand all the changes that happen from like 7 years to about 20 that no one talks about. How the body changes, how the brain changes, how we see different interactions in our environment, how we have the sociocultural pressures to look a certain way, yet our sport wants us to be a different look, right? All of these things to make it okay to talk about, as well as the menstrual cycle and what's normal and what's not and why we should track average age, because they might talk about it but they don't actually know what's normal. And so when you can put some norms around it, they don't feel like they're abnormal or the one that's out of scope. So it just brings conversations back into normalcy, back into more of a positive vibe, and gives them better efficacy.
I think that's what you've done so well in the like perimenopausal, menopausal, area and realms, because it was something for so long we didn't talk about enough. But now going back into this age, there's so many avenues that we can take on this. But why do girls drop out of sport? Why is that such high rate? And if they get back into it at all, but why do you think they drop out so early?
Well, a lot of it is we always default to the boys being the norm, right? So we're looking at the way that people are coached, just like the interaction on the playgrounds is telling you, like the boys would be more aggressive, so they'd take over the fields, which kind of pushes the girls out of being in play. Where they used to play with the boys, but now the boys are getting faster and more aggressive. And it is the onset of puberty where we start to see these really dichotic changes. Not only are we seeing girls becoming less confident in the way that their bodies are moving because biomechanically everything is changing. So they don't feel confident in running or jumping or doing monkey bars or any of that. Then you have the aggression of that's just naturally present in a lot of the younger boys who are playing to push them out of the way because there becomes this competitive scope between the boys and the girls. So that's like one of the very first steps. And then you start seeing how it progresses through organized sport or coaching and things like uniforms and what they have to wear in uniforms that might be uncomfortable, not talking about the different developmental stages when a girl might have a period or not. So none of the coaches are prepared for a 13-year-old to have a period, and their 13-year-olds are not prepared to talk about it. So there's all these different things that come up. And then as we start looking at like the sporting culture and context, there aren't any real good role models until recently. And they're only in the high performing sports. We see tennis, we see soccer, basketball. Those are all great. But some of the subsidiary sports, there aren't really good role models. So the girls are like, I don't really know who to look up to. What do I do? And then it might not be cool because you have the groups. You have the sporty group, and then you have stereotypical of all the like those who are smarter, those who are sportier, those who are more popular, and they don't interact. If they do interact, then there's a little bit of a hedge problem. And this is also the time period, as you know, that girls are so super sensitive of what they look like and how they appear and interact in society. And one small move is going to put them on the dartboard, and they don't want that. So when we start going, okay, why are girls dropping out of sport? It's not just the period. It's how we're talking to our girls, how we are coaching our girls, how we're explaining why and how their bodies are changing, and how we can work with that by doing functional movement and reteaching them the fundamentals of movement, of how to run, how to jump, how to hang from a monkey bar or do pull-ups, like all of these fundamental things they used to be able to do. If we explain, well, it's because the angles of your body have changed, your composition is changing. So now we need to kind of reteach the brain how to work in these kind of movements. And then they start gravitas and like, I can do this again. Why did I think I couldn't do it? So it's going to be a cultural shift to be able to talk to and coach girls and encourage them even in play. Like it's fine to be sweaty and push the boys off the field. That's absolutely fine. Don't feel like you can't to take up that space. But it's giving them the environment and the encouragement and the actual backbone to be able to do it. And that's going to take a massive cultural shift.
Absolutely. I was going to ask you what we can do as parents and coaches to kind of start changing this trend, but I see what you're saying. We actually need to lead with this information that there's a reason why it doesn't feel good right now, or it's not working the same as it used to even last year. And it does change so quickly.
It does.
It's so crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's the thing. Like if we come as a parent and say, oh, it's okay, it's just a temporary thing. Every girl goes through it. It's just because, you're getting ready to get your period and your body, they're not going to listen. But if you bring it to them like as a coach, and maybe the coach has the information and saying, well, when you're a girl and you're starting early parts of puberty, our shoulders widen, our hips widen, we start to put a little bit more belly fat on. And so our bodies aren't quite the same in space and time. So this is what we're going to do. So we tell them about it, and then this is the solution. Then they're like, got it. We can do this.
So in your research, what role does now the movement play in helping build their confidence and their resiliency in kind of identifying their young woman self?
It's massive. I mean, it's not just the physical activity part, but it's the confidence building. Away from the fitness angle, if we look at developing a skill, and that could be on the field, a sport specific skill, or even just lifting, then that skill, because it affects the brain in such a neuroplastic way, it keeps those connections. And we also see the girls are like more confident. So they take up a space, their shoulders are back, and they're like, I can do this. So it just breeds that confidence. And in an academic realm, we see that girls who are more active and are developing skills tend to be more focused, are able to have better academic outcomes. So it all feeds forward. And if we're looking at how are we going to keep our girls confident and empathetic at the same time, when we put them on a team and they're all working together, they also develop that empathy. They understand where other people are coming from, and they want to work with their teammates instead of against them. I mean, keeping girls active playing sport is so important for these developmental years, interaction with society. But then we also see that most of the women that are in the C-suite in industry have some kind of sporting background. So it's like, okay, it starts early. Let's keep it going.
Yeah. And I love that you hit on the confidence side of it because I feel it's just the kids go off to high school and girls, you just kind of get that stigma of there are mean girls out there. And, so them being able to have this confidence and this identity within themselves, but also in these organizations, these sports, these teams.
Mhm.
Yeah, I feel like that just helps develop that resilient level.
Absolutely. And I find it really interesting being American, but not living in the States, but having the export of all the typical high school shows over here. Right. And so, like, all of our teens are watching it and they think that that's what it's supposed to be like. So there's this disconnect. It's like, that is not, that's just TV. So trying to explain all the connections there. And it has such an impact. Like, if they watch it without the connection and understanding that it's not real, you see it being played out. And it's like, okay, now wait, let's pull it back a little bit. That's not real. Mean girls, yes, exist, but not to the extent that you're watching on TV. So, I mean, that's such an influence. Like, you have social media and then you have the influence of actual TV shows.
Oh my gosh, yes. And the lack of confidence. Like you're just walking through this stage of life where you feel a bit more insecure in yourself. So how can you develop and flex that muscle,
Right.
right?
And we see a lot of the lack of confidence also comes out as some of the bullying. Like, you see it in the research that the kids that are more aggressive tend to be the most insecure. So if we can build the confidence across the board, then hopefully that will kind of alleviate the pressure points of some of the bullying we see in middle and high school.
So now I feel also a big conversation is with teens and fueling. So whether you are super active or you're not, like what are non-negotiables that we should know for our teenage girls?
Well, I always put it in the context that there are two really important things we have to think about. And it's outside of sport and all that kind of stuff. It's brain health and development, and it's our gut microbiome. So if we are protecting those two, then we're setting our kids up for a really good path. So we think about all the connections that are happening and the endocrine development and the metabolism development, everything that's happening in the teen years. It's really critical that we pay attention to fueling adequately because we don't want any kind of downturn of endocrine system so early when we're just starting to see a natural rhythm emerge. And when we talk about gut microbiome, we want a wide diversity because of immunity effects. We want to have a really good hormonal response because of the second pass. We also see that it's really critical for bone and muscle development to have some of the butyrates and metabolites that come out of the gut microbiome. So if we're taking care of the brain and the gut, then we set them up for a really good pathway for cognition and health. And it's hard to talk to a teen about that. I'm like, okay, so we just want protein and fiber at every eating opportunity. What does that look like? Right? Even if you're on a 4-day sporting event and you want quick carbs, that doesn't mean lollies and chips. That means, like, let's look for some toast with some Nutella or something like that. Like, explaining what it
Mm,
is, there's a difference. So they still get the fun foods, but it's not the absolute crap fun food.
very true. Yeah. I feel like every meal that I have to make these days is the deconstructed bowl of some sort so that they can add what they'll actually eat, but I know that they're actually getting something that is of substance.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know about you, but like my daughters, they both went through this phase of like they were really good eaters and then all of a sudden they just like turned and eating them has become a chore.
Yeah, it's the types of foods that is more, but my daughter, because we've had such that, we want to eat, fuel our muscles, and she's very much about, I want muscles like the ladies in the gym and like the rugby sevens. So she's really keen to eat, but what she wants to eat has changed.
Mm-hmm. So I'd love to know your thought then on teens and lifting
Yeah.
weights. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, we used to hear like you shouldn't lift weights when you're below the age of 15 and girls really shouldn't do it, but we know none of that's true. And we have to look at training age, of course, and we want to do functional movement first. Maybe we're working with resistance bands and working on form and technique, always lighter weight first. And then we can start getting into more compound movements. Like the Youth Development Academy, they have girls in there that are 10, 11 years old and they're using a hex bar because of their training age, they know how to use it. So it's not like you throw everyone in the deep end, but just like anyone who's doing a strength training journey. And it's so important when we're looking at motor control and proprioception and development of just basic skills to have that strength through full range of motion. And it also gives them like the base point for any sport or any activity, because they can be strong in all their fundamental movements. So then they can naturally go into what interests them the most from a play and or sport point of view and have that base control.
And would this help then, going back to your note on angle changes and different kind of loss of different areas of muscular, I guess, resiliency as they're growing and changing, would this strength help that?
Definitely, because one of the first things that happens in girls is the extremities grow faster. So we have a disconnect of force strength versus extremity control. So if we're working on the basic mechanics of landing or running or jumping or throwing, we're working on the connection between the legs, the core, and the arms. So we're getting that neural connection, which also brings strength. And if we're working that specifically in the gym and working on those movements, then it just starts to flow naturally. And we also see that one of the things that happens with girls is they become more quad dominant. And this is just the effect of how our biomechanics change. So posteriorly, still weak. So if we're looking at cutting motion, we want to go from a single leg bridge hold into a quick cutting motion, because then that's taking the strength into the motion they need to prevent ACL injury. So there's lots of things that we can do in the gym that's not necessarily lifting weights per se, but it is all in the functional strength to prevent injury and to keep them active and happy.
And you mentioned ACL. That's quite a common injury in this age group, is it not? Yeah.
Again, because we have a wider Q angle. So that means from hip to knee is wider, and the body's not quite used to that angle and the proprioception required for stability. And again, we're more quad dominant. So the knock-kneedness that happens and the landing mechanics that aren't quite right really can predispose a girl to an ACL or an MCL tear. So if we're working on getting strength around the knee, stability, core strength, and posterior chain strength, then that prevents that instability and potential for an ACL tear.
So going, I guess, between sport now and joining the two with the fuel side of it, what are some warning signs that parents, coaches can look for around overtraining, red S, the hormonal disruption in?
Yeah, I gave a talk to the surf club last night, kind of on the same thing. And it was a range from 12 to 22-year-olds. And I was like, how many people know when their last period was? And some people are looking around, the little girls are putting their head down. It's like, this is the first thing you need to know. It's like, if you've just started and you're 13 or you started 13 and younger, then know that you're going to be irregular probably for the first 2 to 3 years. And that's normal. If you're later in life, then it takes less time for your body to find a natural rhythm. So the very first thing we want every girl to do is to track. And in that tracking, it's not just day 1 to day 1. We want you to track what the bleed period looks like. How heavy is it? What color is it? Because when that starts to change, then we know that there's a disconnect in endocrine and stress resilience. And the other thing from an overt symptom is, how are you sleeping? How are you feeling? Are you having soft tissue injuries? Are you having upper respiratory tract infections that ordinarily wouldn't come on? What is your mood? And so parents can get into that too. It's like, well, is this puberty or is this under recovery? What is it? So there's that moratorium of understanding that, yeah, there's mood swings in puberty, but if they become above and beyond what you're used to, then you need to have a step back and go, okay, so how are my kids overloaded? And sleep becomes one of those really important things, because we have a phase shift. We know that, like, when our kids are 6 or 7, you can probably get them to bed by about 7:30 or 8. And then it starts to be 8:39, and then it's 9:30, 10.
And then we need to go to bed before they even turn off their lights.
Right, exactly. And it's this natural phase shift that's happening, and then it resets in their 20s. But knowing that if we're perpetuating that phase shift by allowing them to not have dinner until 8 o'clock after night practice, then do homework, and then stay up till 11, they're missing the first rise of melatonin, and they're going to have a circadian shift, which then makes it even more difficult to get up, which causes some glucose dysregulation. So there's a lot of things in it where, to make it simple, I'm like, okay, we have to look at what are our sleep patterns. Let's work from bedtime back to afternoon, and let's back it up. So if we know that our kid still has to do homework, but yet has night practice and won't get home till 7:30, let's have most of his dinner earlier. And then when they get home from practice, they're having a really good recovery mini meal that's not going to impede on digestion. So maybe it is yogurt and fruit, or so you're getting protein and carbs. So it's something light, but it's actually for recovery. And make sure that they aren't doing most of their homework right up to the nth time before bed. And they're leaving their phone outside their door. Let's look at all the sleep hygiene things. And when you start putting that into practice, then they can get into a deep reparative sleep, even if it's a shorter sleep. And that improves the ability to recover, to concentrate, to have attention, and that feeds forward to them being more stress resilient.
Gosh, yeah, the phone. Like, seriously, that's the nemesis of
I know.
childhood.
I know.
Oh,
Right now,
yes.
right now we have it in our house that the phones stay downstairs, preferably in the red heart bowl when you first walk in the house. And we
Yep.
haven't had too much of a violation of that rule. We have the absolute no phones in bedrooms. And so my husband and I abide by that too, because it's leading by example. We'll see how long that
Yep.
lasts, because she is only 13.
I know. And then but I say, like, once you change that, then it's like never going back. So just keep it.
Holding on to it. Yeah.
Okay, so if a girl is struggling, you mentioned periods. So painful periods, the mood swings, the heavy cycles. I know that we've talked about this in the past about like hormonal contraceptions and things like that. What should be explored first before you go down that path?
I think the very first thing is to understand what is normal, right? So we know that if you have heavy cramping and bleeding and it's impeding on your daily life, that's not normal. So if we go to a physician, we don't want girls to be thrown on an oral contraceptive pill right away. There's a myriad of reasons, but for the most part, the younger they are, the more we're seeing it has an interference on brain development, especially the amygdala. So we can look at using tranexamic acid. We can look at what are we going to do to dampen the inflammatory response prior to, through magnesium and omega-3s. So there's lots of things we can look at first before we go down the hormonal contraceptive route. If none of that works and they have the onset of PCOS or endometriosis, which is really hard to diagnose in the early stages, but it's something to be aware of, then there's other medical interventions. And it might be an oral contraceptive pill, but it shouldn't be the first order.
Okay. Yeah. I think that is so often. Maybe slowly I'm noticing doctors say less about like that's the first point of contact, but it's still one of those options that come up every single time.
Yeah, I know. It's like Skittles. They're like, here's some Skittles. Just take them. There's no effect. It's like, well, yeah, there is. And then, you still have that whole conversation about exogenous hormones in the peri and postmenopausal space too. It's like, so why is puberty different from that space? Like, there's still exogenous hormones, and no one's really investigated too much into it.
Seriously. Yeah. Okay, so let's bridge the gap a little bit because moms are listening to this and they're watching their girls change while at the same time we're all going through the perimenopausal, menopausal years, and all of a sudden these worlds and hormones are colliding at the same time. So what are the early signs of perimenopause that women should be really paying attention to?
So it's symptomatic for the most part, and everyone's experience is a little bit different. When we're looking at things like you're getting up in your training and doing any kind of exercise and there's absolutely no change, then that's one of our first signs. Aside from our overt symptoms of like hot flashes and night sweats, we can also look at mood and mood changes, being sympathetically driven, so that's that tired but wired, having lots of interrupted sleep with lots of awakenings, or waking up and going, I feel like I haven't slept. All of those are really imperative signs to know that it's perimenopause. Then we can start getting down the track of, you get a diagnosis of low bone density, or all of a sudden your cholesterol is on the higher side. And you're like, why is my cholesterol high? I've never had a problem with that before. And it is because estrogen is starting to change in its ratios. So there's more inflammation and there's a change in the way that your body's processing fats. So some of the blood tests are telling, but you can't get hormonal blood tests to tell you. So I know, I think it's really interesting when you have the puberty onset and then you have the perimenopausal onset and you have the clash of the personalities because both are very anxious and angry and depressed and rage. And you're like, okay, great. It's a good mix. We're doing the same thing, but at different ends of the spectrum.
And good luck to anyone else that's living in that household. Oh my gosh. What myths do you wish that women like my age would stop believing about hormones, metabolism, muscle?
Yeah, so there's so many myths. Let's go with more cardio.
Your top few.
Yeah, more cardio or the long, slow zone 2 stuff. Not doing high intensity work. Those are myths. We see getting hormone tests and quote balancing your hormones. That's all myth as well. Eating less to lose weight. That's a huge myth. And right, so people are like, what do you mean? Calories in, calories out? It's like, no, because most of the time what happens when we're hitting our 40s, we're having a little bit of an age-related decline of movement just because we're more tired. And then when perimenopause hits, you're even more tired. So incidentally, you move less. So that's part of our metabolism turn down. And we also see that with the shift in hormones, we start to put on more body fat. So if we're not conscious of keeping our resistance training up and making that a precedence for building muscle and bone, then we're going to see a dramatic shift in our body composition down the track. So we don't necessarily want that. But part of the problem is when people start experiencing that, we default to the 90s idea of I'm eating too much and not moving enough. So I'm going to eat less and I'm going to start to try to move more, or I'm just going to eat less. And then that counter affects everything because now your body's in a low energy state when it's in a high stress state from the fact that our hormones are changing. So when we talk about eating more, people are really absolutely surprised that they start eating more protein and putting in maybe an extra 200 calories a day, even though in the thought process, they're like, this is going to make me gain weight. And in fact, they lose weight. You're like, what did this happen? It's like, well, now you're feeding your body what it needs and you're getting yourself out of a low energy hole so that you can actually polarize your stress responses, which overall reduces the total load of stress so that you can get into better sleep habits.
And how much you can change your body composition with strength and eating more at the same time.
Exactly. And I think the other really big myth is fasting. Holding, intermittent fasting. I'm going to fast till noon and that's fine. My eating window is from 12 to 6 and I'm going to have this big long overnight fast. It is really detrimental for women. And this is because more of a circadian rhythm shift. When you're looking at the kind of ways that we can change our circadian rhythm is through light and dark and food intake. So if we're waking up and it's still dark, our body's like, still should be asleep. And then we don't eat until noon, then the body's like, what's going on? So you have a high amount of stress, but the body's trying to figure out, am I awake? Am I in a flight or fight? The hypothalamus is like, where's the food? And you start to get these missed signals. And so you have a change in our appetite hormones. And then we see from the research that women who are doing that and not eating in the morning, they tend to incidentally move less in the afternoon and crave simple carbohydrates. And then they eat, the caffeine and the sugar rush in the afternoon.
The fillers.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And then they're like, oh, here's my eating window, 6 p.m. Shut my eating window down. So there's less of an opportunity to get all the micronutrients they need and the protein that they need. So they're missing on fiber, they're missing on protein. They end up eating more of the filler things, and we end up with less metabolic control, less of all the things that you hear about with autophagy and telomere length changes. So if we are eating according to our circadian rhythm, you end up with an overnight fast of 12 to 13 hours. You're fueling during the day, your body responds in kind. So that's the other thing when we start really getting women to pay attention to their eating habits and they end up eating more in the day when their body needs it, sleeping better, then they start losing weight.
It sounds so simple, but we overthink everything.
I know. Because people have this idea, if it's simple, then it doesn't work. But actually, it does.
What's one thing your daughter has taught you about this age and stage?
Gosh, so many things. Tolerance and patience, right? Yeah, navigating all of the socio-cultural issues that come up when you're in middle school and having the tolerance and patience to do it, and like letting her vent and be, and also learning how to intervene and when to. And then also, when you're little, or when they're little, and as a parent you just want to cuddle them up and protect them and make sure nothing hurts them, but you can't do that. You just have to let them have their own experiences. So it's less of the control and more of the I'll catch you.
And what's one belief you hope your daughter absorbs just by watching you live?
I really want her to maintain her empathy and to take up space and be confident. I've seen that kind of decrease over the past year with a lot of issues that have happened at school, but when she's surrounded by people that she trusts, it comes back. So I want that so I always am empathizing and sympathizing and saying, yes, it is hard when you challenge. Everyone's going to push back. You're going to get people that don't like you. And so when I get haters, and she knows that, and she sees how it really affects me, and she's like, F the haters, Mom, take up space, be confident. And I'm like, that's my girl. That's what.
Don't forget that. Don't forget that. Okay, so we're going to end with a little rapid fire, first thought, best thought, but kind of some of the things that people can go and find on other podcasts that you've done 1,000 times, but they keep coming up. So most underrated training tool for women.
Very short, focused sessions.
Most overrated women's health trend right now.
Zone 2 and fasting.
One thing teen girls should never skip.
Breakfast.
Best time of day for women to strength train.
It depends on what your motivation is. We see from some research that if you're really trying to mobilize abdominal fat and get rid of that belly fat, first thing in the morning. But if you're looking for overall strength gains, then it doesn't matter.
Supplements, one worth the money.
Creatine monohydrate.
I'm so excited you said that. One thing you hope for the next generation of girls that will never apologize for.
I hope they don't have to go through all of the shit that we've gone through with fighting to have the same platform of a voice and a presence as a lot of the men or male colleagues. And I want them to know they have a right at the table, whatever table that is. If it's a boardroom, if it is at the front during an exam, if it is at the center of a field playing, don't apologize for it. Take up space because you own that and you deserve it. And we've fought to get you there.
Goosebumps. Yes. Stacy, thank you for being, honestly, one of the strongest voices advocating for women and now for girls everywhere. Truly appreciate you. So inspired by you. Everyone can find you everywhere these days, but where can we find you for the next gen and your continued work?
Our website, the drstacysims.com, has Next Gen, the program, and information about it. And we have a book coming out, a Next Gen book coming out to be part of the suite of books towards the middle of next year. So we'll keep everybody apprised of that. But yeah, I want that to be like the guide for people to go to say, this is how we should be looking at our girls.
Exciting. I appreciate you. Thank you for making the time for me, truly.
Yeah, well, thank you for having me. It's always fun to connect.
Yeah, likewise. And are you back on North American soil soon? Going to see Haley anytime soon? Any exciting things happening?
I just got back after being away for most of the year. So the only really exciting thing I have is knee surgery on Monday.
Okay, so for that, do you load up creatine to help support that?
I have been, and doing lots of rehab, lots of strength work, because it's been ongoing since February. And I've been traveling so much, I haven't been able to do proper rehab. So I've been doing it kind of as I can. But I've been home for maybe 2.5, 3 weeks now after traveling for most of the year. I'm like, that's it. I'm going to get as strong as possible. I'm going to load up on anti-inflammatory foods and omega-3s and creatine. And then I'm going to go in for day surgery and I'm going to nail it.
Yes, you are. That's so amazing. I have to say too that you quickly made note of short but really great workouts, and I've been doing the Haley Appens app with all of the things that you guys put on there for the year, and I just went back and did all my functional testing, and I downed body fat and I gained a 1.5 pounds of muscle. I came home and I was bragging to my husband. I'm like, guess what?
I love that. Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, so it doesn't need to be long, but I totally agree. We just used to kill ourselves, right? And it just felt so satisfying to know you don't have to.
No, not volume, it's the focus and intensity.
Well, thank you again, and good luck with your knee surgery. You are going to kill that one and move right back into all the things you do. So appreciate you.
Awesome.
Thank you. Have a great night. Thanks so much for tuning in today. If today's conversation resonated, then ask yourself what one small action you can take from it. Because momentum isn't built in big, dramatic moments. It's built in a quiet follow-through, the honest choices, and the decision you make when no one's watching. If you loved this episode, the best way to support the show is to subscribe, leave a review, or share it with someone who needs to hear it. And remember, you don't have to choose between showing up for your life and going after your potential. This is your permission to stop playing small. I'll see you next time.